tuned into Between You, Me, and the Speculum with Dr. Jew. On today's episode, Dr. Jew honors the memory and legacy of mentor and history maker, Dr. Booker T. Poe.
The last few days I've been in a bit of a pensive mood, and I thought today I would share with you perhaps some little known facts as I remember the life and legacy of Dr. Booker T. Poe. Dr. Poe was a pediatrician for over 60 years, and he died at the age of 89, leaving behind many to mourn him, especially the thousands upon thousands of patients that he had the privilege of taking care of. We, as physicians, we know that it is a privilege and an honor to take care of you, our patients, and we don't take it for granted. And so I know that the relationships that were built through those decades mean something to many families as they are learning of his recent transition. When I think of Dr. Poe and the other great physicians of our local physician organizations, I can't help to think of the history of Black physicians in Georgia, locally here in Metro Atlanta, but across this country. And there were but a few Black physicians in the 1800s. In 1847, the American Medical Association was founded, and as you would guess, Black physicians were not allowed to be members. Surprise, surprise. But the reason behind it is, Black physicians didn't meet the criteria, and not just the hue of their skin, but it was also because their bylaws did not allow, right? In order for you to be a member of the American Medical Association, they said you must be a member of one of the local and or state organizations. And, we're here in the South. That wasn't going to be happening in 1847 or anytime soon. I also think of names such as Dr. Eliza Ann Butler. She is known as the first, we know her as the first African-American physician, female physician who had a license and practice. I'm not familiar with their licensure in those days, but she practiced in the Metro Atlanta area and is known as one of the first. Even before her time in 1865, Dr. Augusta was leading, I guess you could say he was like the CEO of the Freedmen's Hospital in Savannah. So he's the first one that we know of that led a hospital, 1865.
The city of Atlanta is remembering the life of Dr. Booker T. Poe, one of the city's first Black pediatricians who died at the age of 89. For more than 60 years, Dr. Poe cared for families while fighting for health equity and social justice, and he was instrumental in expanding immunization access for underserved children and helping pass Georgia's pediatric seatbelt law. City leaders and colleagues call him a mentor and a trailblazer. Dr. Poe first opened his practice on Martin Luther King Jr. Drive back in the 1960s and served families across Atlanta for 6 decades.
And then there were Dr. Cornelius McCain and his wife, also a doctor, who started the McCain Teaching Hospital for nurses, first in the region. I think back to the 1890, where Dr. Henry Rutherford Butler and a few other physicians that came together to start one of the oldest Black physician organizations here in Metro Atlanta. And it wasn't just for physicians, it was a conglomerate of physicians, pharmacists, and dentists. Later on, those different clinician types separated, and we were left with the Atlanta Medical Association. And he, along with a few others, started 3 years later in 1893 the Georgia State Medical Association. That is the organization, GSMA, that I am the proud president of currently. And then 2 years later, at the Cotton Exposition, again in Atlanta, you guessed it, members of the Atlanta Medical Association, the Georgia State Medical Association, local society out of Augusta, Georgia, Tennessee, they all came together to start the National Medical Association. So no wonder why we like to talk about our bragging rights, right? Because the Atlanta Medical and the Georgia State Medical Associations had it going on. And thanks to the leadership of that time, the national body that brings together, still to this day, Black physicians who take care of all people, but recognize the health inequities from back in the late 1800s when we were dealing with smallpox, right? And throughout the decades when we were coming together to formalize education for nurses, education for physicians. Meharry and Howard were the only two medical schools standing, HBCU medical schools that were standing. And then later on in the 1970s, under the leadership again of the Georgia State and Atlanta Medical Association physicians, the idea to bring about a third medical school, now named the Morehouse School of Medicine, was birthed. There's just so much history that, unless you've been under a rock, you know that there are some who wish to erase the profound impact that Black physicians have made. Okay, I'm not even getting into Charles Drew. Hello. There are just so many giants in medicine that folks like me, who, how long has it been? 20, almost 30, let's just say that, almost 30 years ago, when I not only said that I wanted to become a physician, the steps to getting there were not as difficult, because these great giants that came before me, they paved the way. And because they paved the way, I just applied. I applied and I did what I needed to do. And thank God I was accepted by Morehouse School of Medicine. And the rest, they say, is history. But for me, I wasn't here in the 1800s, though my kids may think so. But for me, when I joined the local organization, Atlanta Medical Association.
Well, Atlanta is remembering Dr. Booker T. Poe, one of the city's first Black pediatricians who died at the age of 89. For more than 60 years, Dr. Poe cared for families while also fighting for health equity and social justice. He was also instrumental in expanding immunization access for underserved children and helped pass Georgia's pediatric seatbelt law.
Dr. Poe, who I pay homage to because of his impact, not only as a pediatrician, but the fact that in the season, in the time that he came through, I'm sure he would tell you that there were others that broke barriers for him, but he broke barriers for people like me. And I thank Dr. Poe for his life and legacy, and for also his encouragement and his nomination that allowed me to ascend to the office of president of the Georgia State Medical Association.
Dr. Booker T. Poe moved his family to Atlanta to start his practice in 1969. Channel 2's Lori Wilson spoke with a former colleague about the impact Dr. Poe had on the community.
We in the community knew we could trust him, and we could trust him with our most precious possessions, our children.
Dr. Bill Cleveland remembers his friend Dr. Booker T. Poe, who passed away this week, as not only a mentor, but as a fierce advocate for health equity and social justice. He was one of the first Black pediatricians in Atlanta who would serve the community for more than 5 decades.
And he took care of not only the children when they were young, but their children and their children's children. And that connection is just so valuable.
The Meharry Medical College graduate opened his practice in Atlanta in the late 1960s on Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. He was one of the doctors who helped establish Morehouse School of Medicine. Cleveland says one of the greatest lessons he learned from Poe was the importance of advocating for patients to help shape policy.
Once a year, we would bring in politicians and community physicians and have a dialogue to discuss our priorities.
As Dr. Poe served his patients, he also championed expanding preventative health care for children and expanding access to Medicaid. Dr. Booker T. Poe was 89 years old. Lori.
But, it was 1890 when the Atlanta Medical Association was formed, and there were a couple of organizations from Texas that had already organized. But 1890, the Atlanta Medical Association was formalized, and I am a proud past president in 2017 of the Atlanta Medical Association. 1893, the past president organizer of the Atlanta Medical Association, Dr. Henry Rutherford Butler, and some other colleagues formalized the Georgia State Medical Association that I am currently proud president of. And then, along with some others, other Southern state physicians, they formalized 2 years later in 1895 the National Medical Association. So I have been now president of 2 organizations that can boast, and we do boast, that without us, there would be no National Medical Association. But let's go back to that 1847 AMA, right? Do you know it took over another 100 years before Black physicians would be allowed? And Dr. Poe that I am speaking about, Dr. Poe was already a physician in 1968 by the time the AMA House of Delegates said no more and basically forced their local and state societies to accept, due to the civil rights movement, to accept physicians of color. And Dr. Booker Poe, 60 years of service, more than 60 years of service as a pediatrician, most recently, I believe, until 2019, where he served in the Austell area. And it was the Dr. Booker Poes of our state organization that laid the groundwork for a lot of what we, as members of our local and state society and national, do. Especially credited to him was starting the legislative breakfast, where legislators and physicians could come together for the sole purpose of creating policies, discussing health policies that would impact positively members of society that just happen to be minority in number. So I just wanted to pause because sometimes we fail to remember Eliza Ann Greer. She was the first African-American female physician, I believe in 1897, that served here in Georgia. So I think of the names and even more recent physicians, Dr. Densler, first pediatric surgeon. I saw him just a couple of weeks ago at an Atlanta Medical Association meeting, and Dr. Jewel Borders, who has served for decades on Martin Luther King Drive in Atlanta, Georgia, obstetrician and gynecologist, and so many giants in medicine, but more importantly, so many that continue to pave the way. So that is what my sincerest hope is, that I too can lend a shoulder for others to stand on. So I was met with giants. Dr. Jewel Borders, Dr. James Densler, and Dr. Booker Poe. And as I remember him, I'm going to always take with me on days like today where it's late, y'all, and I have worked. These last few days and weeks have just been so busy in my office, and I've had patients in the hospital and long days. But I don't take any of it for granted. And I feel privileged. I feel so honored, because these aren't just names in the history books, y'all. These are folks that I served alongside. And I want to thank his family, Dr. Janita Poe, Attorney Brian Poe, for sharing your father as you have done through the years. And with me, I feel like special, of course, as I have shared the story with them and my colleagues. The trust that Dr. Poe put in me and nominating me to the board of the Georgia State Medical Association. I will always take that with me and hope that I have made him proud.
What happened that night? You said things were fine. What changed? What are you avoiding? Men talk about it. Why can't we?
Hi, I'm Dr. Julianne Adams-Burt. 43% of women experience a sexual problem, yet they don't want to talk about it. We can help you feel the way you used to. So talk to us. Visit radiantwomenshealth.com today.
I spent a lot of time looking in history, and especially in this season that we are all living in, where they are attempting to erase Black history. But this is my channel, and I'm going to share because I feel like even newer physicians, those entering medical school, and many of my colleagues practicing now, have lost sight of the journey of us getting here. And people like Dr. Booker Poe kept that at the forefront. And I thank him for all that he did in serving not only locally here at the Atlanta Medical Association and the statewide organization, the Georgia State Medical Association, but also the National Medical Association. So, all right, I've gone on and on. We do need to remember our history, y'all. Folks trying to erase it, don't let it happen. And I thank thank you for listening. And though I shed a tear when I learned of his passing, a smile broke across my face. And I hope one day that my life and legacy will mean for others what he has meant to me.
When did this begin? How long has it been going on? Did you think it would just go away? Men, talk about it. Why can't we?
Hi, I'm Dr. Julianne Adams Burt. 43% of women experience a sexual problem, yet they don't want to talk about it. We can help you feel the way you used to. So talk to us. Visit radiantwomenshealth.com today.
I want to thank the Booker Poe family. As I already shared with them, thank you for loaning us your father, his son, attorney Brian Poe, and his daughter, Dr. Janita Poe. We thank you. Thank you for how you loved on your father and took care of him even after the passing of your mother a decade ago. We will never forget. We thank you, and we thank all of those who have come before us. So, to my colleagues who currently work in healthcare, these are the giants, and hopefully we are doing our best to show the next generation of physicians what it takes, and what must be done to leave a profound legacy. I could go on and on about Dr. Poe and tell a story or two, but I won't end it there because I still gotta make it to the hospital to see a patient of mine. So I'm gonna sign off for now, and thank you for joining me. See you next time. Bye.
The content shared on Between You, Me, and the Speculum with Dr. Ju is for informational purposes only. While Dr. Ju is a licensed physician, the information provided should not be considered a substitute for professional medical advice. Always consult your primary care physician or healthcare provider before making any changes to your health or wellness routine. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and do not represent the views of any medical institution or organization.